Have you ever caught a whiff of a dog treat that actually smells kind of delicious? Or have you seen your dog eat their food and think, wait, that looks kind of good enough for me to eat? Nah, I shouldn't. Unless... Hello, Internet! Welcome to Food Theory, the show where we listen to your food confessions and we don't judge. Here's a confession of my own. I've recently become a Costco person. So I was walking through Costco the other day, like I do now, and when browsing for a brand new snack to buy a literal pallet of, seriously, this place is great, I stumbled across 2 pounds of these delicious looking Zoe bars. This tempting beef stick recipe claimed to be a protein-packed snack with berries and flax, and it's dog food. Dang it! Hear me out. This is actually a fairly recent trend that's been growing like crazy for the last few years, marketing pet food just like human food. They're using the same catchphrases like gluten-free, highlighting protein benefits and pushing premium ingredients in a way that is mirroring the marketing for our food. And some of the meals seem practically indistinguishable from human equivalents. Heck, my dog is on this super fancy diet of food because he's allergic to everything except me. And I'm not gonna lie, the smell is kind of tempting. All of this got me thinking, well, could we eat it? Not just once or twice as a quick meal replacement or gag for the internet. What would happen if we started eating pet food exclusively? Which one is the best for us? Could we survive, thrive, and keep our healthy coat of fur? Or are all of them bad for us and they'd have to flush you down the toilet like a goldfish kind of way? Well, stick around because there's one animal food that is surprisingly good for you and might be a go-to snack to share with your pet whenever you want. You might not know this, but pet food is regulated pretty much the same way human food is. The FDA started overseeing pet food all the way back in 1938. Surprising, honestly, that they dedicated time to this during the Great Depression. Didn't have anything more pressing to deal with, I guess. At the time, most dog food was made out of horse meat. By World War II, canned horse meat was flying off the shelves so fast, dog food manufacturers were breeding and slaughtering 50,000 horses a year. So, at the very least, eating dog food was not safe for horses. But World War II changed things. The world at large, obviously, but also pet food production. You see, when metal for canning needed to be rationed, pet food was given the distinction of being non-essential. So dry food surged in popularity, not just for people, but for pets. It was actually cereal makers who got creative and invented the dry kibble we know today by the 1950s. In the 60s, the Pet Food Institute launched ad campaigns about how kibble was the healthiest way to feed your pets, and the rest was basically history. It became the gold standard. Those standards have only increased over the years, especially recently. In 2011, the Food Safety Modernization Act created new requirements for both pet food and human food manufacturers, mostly focused on preventing the spread of foodborne illnesses. Since then, there's been something of an explosion of boutique pet food makers promoting health and wellness in our canine and feline friends, and a big swing in the industry in recent years has been toward human-grade pet food. For a short time, this was just a marketing buzzword. But in 2023, the Association of American Feed Control Officials, which oversees pet food labels, came up with new guidelines for the term. According to AFCO, human grade denotes that it is technically fit for human consumption because it's both edible and was manufactured and packaged in a facility that met federal regulation standards. All of that to say, humans can eat it. See, I'm not the only crazy thinking about this, but edible isn't exactly synonymous with can sustain human life though. So let's talk about the necessary elements of a human diet: water, proteins, fats, carbohydrates, minerals, and vitamins. Every living thing needs some balance of these to support their internal anatomy and bodily functions. How much they need largely determines their natural diet. There are certain things that humans synthesize or produce naturally in our anatomy, but more importantly, things that we don't, and this is one of the main reasons we, or any animal, ingest food in the first place. So all the animals in the animal kingdom can keep doing their thing. Raccoons can keep raiding your trash bin, cats can keep meowing even though they've been fed, and squirrels can do that super cute thing where they jump in front of your car for no reason. Stop doing that. We all know about the holy trinity of macros: proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. Understanding this macro balance will be critical in our understanding of the perfect pet food to eat. For the most part, people are familiar with the idea that protein equals muscles, but it's the how that's important to us right now. You see, your body breaks proteins down into amino acids. We need 20 amino acids to do our thing, but there are certain amino acids that we can only get through eating food because our bodies don't synthesize them on our own. How much protein do you actually need though? This can be all over the map, especially if you're in the fitness community. But when we're talking about survival, the recommendation is that somewhere between 10 to 35% of your daily calories should be from protein, which should make up the biggest percentage of your diet. However, are carbohydrates found in vegetables, fruits, and starches, because they are our biggest energy producers. According to nutritionists, these should make up between 45 to 65% of your daily calories. Fats, which help us absorb vitamins and minerals we need for bodily functions, should make up a similar percentage of your diet as protein, around 20 to 35% of our calories. Speaking of calories, the number is different for everybody, but the average human needs anywhere between 1,600 and 3,000 calories a day. If you're talking about a bare minimum for survival, dietitians and nutritionists seem to agree the absolute minimum is somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,200 calories a day. Anything less than 1,000 will apparently produce the same physiological effects as starvation. That's when you'll start to see all sorts of negative side effects, like fatigue, depression, hair loss, excessive weight loss, poor sleep, and a weakened immune system. So, yeah, don't do that. Now that we have a baseline for human macros and caloric needs, let's get back to the burning question. Which pet foods could we consume? Well, the thing is, there were actually some surprises when we took a look at several common pets. There are a couple that won't be so good for you, like really not good for you in a you're gonna get cancer type of way. First up, it will kill you one. Fish food is gonna be a giant no-no. Seriously. For starters, fish need a wildly different balance of vitamins and minerals than we do, which is gonna make for all kinds of preservatives we aren't meant to be eating. Most notably, sodium nitrite, which has been linked to causing cancer in excessive amounts of humans. On top of that, fish food isn't produced with the same safety guidelines, so fish products could have a higher likelihood of dangerous bacteria for humans. So if you don't want diet from fish food in your obituary, or your obituary in general, maybe steer clear of this one. If you are feeling fishy though, guess what has a lot of fish in it typically? Cat food. Because there's a ridiculously wide array out there, we'll hit the generic stuff first. What most people think of when they think of common, affordable cat food with potentially questionable ingredients. Anyway, Meow Mix. A cup of Meow Mix Original Choice dry food clocks in at 310 calories, meaning you'd need at least 4 cups of it per day to meet your body's most basic requirements. That comes with a macro breakdown of about 31% protein and 11% fat. It's also shockingly high in carbs. Not great for your cat, but actually ideal for us in the 35 to 50% range. Most big brand dry cat foods are going to be made up of similar components. Just like with human food, most of the contenders out there copy the leading brand. Purina's dry food, for instance, was similar but with small adjustments to the ratios and maybe different vitamin boosts. Now, at first glance, this actually seems like a decent start, but there's a big difference between us and cats that may be the killer here. Cats are obligate carnivores, meaning they can't synthesize amino acids and proteins from plants in the same way that herbivores or omnivores like us can. But it also means they can synthesize vitamin C in their livers, so they don't need any of that in their diet. In fact, any more can be dangerous. We do, unless we want to get scurvy. Another key cat and human diet difference, their bodies don't naturally produce the important amino acid taurine, so they need to ingest it in the form of animal protein, and they don't need as many carbs. They also require 2 to 3 times more protein than omnivores. That means cat diet macros should be somewhere around 50% protein and only a tiny bit of carbs. Unfortunately, this means we can rule out another animal people have taken a liking to, ferrets. In a bit of a twist, yeah, at least for me, since I couldn't begin to tell you where ferrets are from or what kind of food they eat, ferrets are quite a bit like cats in terms of diet. Like cats, these adorable little hunters are obligate carnivores, so high quality cat or kitten food is sometimes considered a substitute for ferrets to eat in the short term. I can't tell if this makes them more cute or more creepy. Regardless, chowing down exclusively on cat or ferret food, whether it's dry or wet, would eventually kill you. With fish, cats, and ferrets out of the way, it's time to take a look at man's best friend, dogs. The big generic dry dog food brands fall a little more closely in line with human diets. Both Purina and IAM's brand kibbles check out with our dietary ratios. These brands also have around 350 to 400 calories per cup, so like cat food, you're gonna have to eat multiple cups of it per day just to keep the engine going, which really isn't too big of a deal. On a 2,400 calorie a day diet, that's like 2 cups for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Flavor notwithstanding. Those golden macro similarities between dogs and humans shouldn't be too much of a surprise. Dogs, like humans, are omnivores, meaning they can synthesize the things they need nutritionally from both plant and animal matter. Dogs need more protein and amino acids than we do, mostly to support those shiny fur coats. Percentage-wise, their macros look surprisingly like ours, in a similar zone across protein, carbs, and fat. However, that doesn't mean that dog diets and human diets are exactly alike per se. There are some critical differences, which brings us to our other nutrient categories, vitamins and minerals. Vitamins and minerals fall in their own special categories, since they aren't food groupings, but rather are found in food. There are 13 essential vitamins we need for our bodies to function well. They're divided into two categories: vitamins that can be absorbed by fat, vitamins A, D, E, and K, and vitamins that can be absorbed by water, C, and all the B's. It's critical to get a healthy amount of all of these, but the deficiencies most linked to fatality are vitamin D and B12, so they're arguably a little more important. Minerals are divided into major and minor minerals, depending on the roles they play. Major minerals include things like magnesium, calcium, potassium, and sodium, while minor minerals include iron, iodine, fluoride, and zinc. Like vitamins, it's important to get the appropriate amounts of minerals for any number of bodily functions. However, if you're keeping score, the mineral deficiencies that are most commonly associated with premature death are iron, calcium, and iodine. So dog food seems to cover our macros, but does it support our vitamin and mineral needs? Well, yes and no. For one, like cats, dogs produce vitamin C naturally in their liver, so it won't be present in dry kibbles at all. However, their metabolism is much faster than ours, requiring way more vitamins, so their food has to account for this. Forget those daily supplements, gym bros. Just eat some kibble. Duh. Seriously, most dog food is packed with vitamin supplements. The leading brands of dog kibbles we mentioned earlier are all supplemented with healthy doses of vitamin A, B, D, and E. Iron and iodine are also supplemented to a degree that should meet human needs as long as we're ingesting multiple servings, along with calcium. That covers dry food, but the place where dog food really excels over cat food, beyond just nutritional numbers and percentages, wet food. Because canned dog food meals are actually fairly close in consistency and ingredients to canned human food. Apparently, Hill Science Diet Savory Stew with chicken and vegetables isn't too bad, just like eating a human chicken and veggie stew. Plus, human-like ratios for 28% protein, 19% fat, and 44% carbs at 330 calories in a can. If you close your eyes, it's not that different from eating a Campbell's chunky soup. Oh, I'm gonna be sick. Plus, some survival blogs out there have done taste tests and ranked it at the top for its fetching flavor. But if you want to avoid a Scooby-Doo type mystery when it comes to ingredients, there's one area of pet food we haven't talked about in depth yet: human grade, which is where the real nutritional magic lies. Is it actually good enough for us to eat, or is it just more fancy marketing speak? Again, the wet food is gonna have the advantage here. There's several really good options out there, and they actually sound kind of delicious. One of the best options we researched in terms of overall ingredients and human macro goals was Nom Nom brand's Turkey Fare recipe. The main ingredients: ground turkey, brown rice, eggs, carrots, and spinach. Dang! I just added all of that to my grocery list. This brand also has close to that golden nutrient ratio for humans: 35% protein, 17% fat, and 38% carbohydrates. That is a lean and mean pre-prepped meal. Similarly delicious sounding is the Farmer's Dog turkey recipe, the main ingredients of which include turkey, chickpeas, carrots, broccoli, and spinach. 33% protein, 18% fat, and 39% carbohydrates. That ratio, though. Seriously, why are these dogs eating better than the rest of us? If you're not looking for the cold stuff, though, there's also human-grade dried dog food to the rescue. That's right, fancy kibble. First up is the Spot and Tango Unkibble, freeze-dried kibble that are a bit low in fat, but boy does it smell good. This is the type that Genji actually eats every day, and I have to admit, I've thought about snagging a couple of bites. And I'm not the only one. Back in 2020, a man ate nothing but Munster milling dog food for 30 days. Apparently, that guy lost more than 20 pounds and said he felt fantastic. To be fair, he was also the CEO of the company, so he was definitely trying to sell people on the health bennies. But hey, he did it and he turned out fine. In the short to medium term, not much would happen to your body if you switched over to your dog's food, according to veterinarian nutritionists. In a lot of ways, eating dog food is just like eating a small meal. This may seem like a slam dunk, but it's food theory. You know it's never that simple. Because I said earlier that nothing would happen in the short to medium term, but the long term is a different story. And we're not looking for the best pet food to snack on, we're looking for the best pet food to survive on. The big problem with dog food is vitamin K3, a synthetic vitamin in most dog foods which is potentially toxic to humans in the long term. So chowing down on this for months and months can cause your blood cells to rupture and turn your skin yellow. Not good. So back to the drawing board. And we're kind of running out of plausible pets. I mean, we could look at snake food, but that's a lot of mice and you'd probably die of vitamin A toxicity. But not all hope is lost, because there is one pet food that's the key. That's right, your potential new secret snack: hamster food. Since the bulk of hamster diets include things like seeds, fruits, nuts, and veggies, their bagged up pet food is actually not bad at all. In fact, it may be a bit of a grocery hack. Higgins Sunburst Gourmet Gerbil and Hamster Food is basically a bag of fancy trail mix with ingredients like yellow peas, flaked carrots, flaked corn, pumpkin seeds, coconut, raisins, apples, cashews, papaya, and pineapple. Plus, it's got vitamins D and B, calcium, iodine, and iron supplements. Given hamsters' caloric needs compared to our own, one 2.5-pound bag of Higgins comes out to somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,350 calories, or kinda perfect for a minimum day's worth of food, with protein, fat, and carbs all in an acceptable range, even if it is a bit on the low end for protein. Higgins comes in 2.5-pound bags or 25-pound bags, which would be a whopping 10 days worth of food. While this may seem like a surprise at first glance, it makes sense when you think about it a little. There's a reason hamsters are used in various trials and experiments, and a lot of that has to do with the physiology that's got some strong similarities to humans on a metabolic level. Now, that's not to say that this goes both ways. There's a lot of human foods that hamsters can't eat, but we can go nuts and chew on their pellets. Hamster food, who would have thunk? It's basically like existing on a plant-based diet, which a lot of humans are already doing. Look at Amy. Although, if you get yourself one of those human-sized hamster wheels, you'll probably need to be downing a lot more calories. But hey, that's just a theory. A food theory. Buen provecho. And hey, if you want more, make sure to click the link on the screen now. And as always, I'll see you next week.